The Gemara, we have this also in the beginning of Tanya. Compassion is one of the things that actually define a Yid, define a Jew, that they're compassionate. But it's interesting, it's important to remember that even compassion, which is a good character trait, still needs to be applied in the right place. What I mean by that is that how far do you go with compassion? And is there someone that you're not supposed to be compassionate towards them? Or at least not act in a compassionate way, because they could be a danger. So there's a famous quote from the Rambam, Maimonides, where he says the following: whoever is compassionate towards someone that is a sadist is being sadistic to the compassionate. Say that again. A sadist means someone who's the opposite of compassion, someone who enjoys hurting people, killing people, torturing people. If you have compassion for such a person, you think you're being compassionate, but in essence, you're being sadistic to people that are victims that are compassionate people. Don't get it still?
I got it. That's like
Hi, Chedva.
that's like really extreme.
Extreme?
So is there like a middle ground that maybe like?
No, when someone goes around killing people, and I say I feel bad for him, I don't want to shoot him because he's also a human being.
Right.
I once saw a letter where this student is pleading with his professor. He was a student who was supposed to graduate in engineering, and the professor failed him. And he writes a heart-rendering letter to the professor. How much money was invested, the money that I paid to go through college. It was so hard for my parents. And they spent X amount of money. And the amount of hours that I spent studying, and I studied so hard, and it was so difficult. It goes on and on and on. And now you failed me, and I'm pleading for your compassion. And please reconsider. So the professor writes back, I do have compassion for you, but who's going to have compassion for the people that are going to be walking on your bridges?
Right.
In other words, I give you your diploma, you become an engineer, you're going to build a building or you're going to build a bridge. Who's going to have compassion on all those victims? In other words, when I'm being strong to a destructive person, I am being compassionate. I'm being compassionate for the victims rather than compassion for the one who is attacking. Unfortunately, this is one of the confusions out there in the world where people have so much compassion for terrorists. People go around blowing up other people's lives, men, women, children, and then when you do something to stop them, it's like, where's your compassion? They're human beings. So basically, this is the principle.
They're human killers. I mean, they're human beings.
This is the principle that yes, you have to have compassion, but your compassion shouldn't lead to, which means here I'm being compassionate, but as a result of that, being compassionate, I remember here in the community, it was a few years ago, there was an incident where somebody, it was in the news, it was all on the websites. His name was Rabbi Majeski, he's a sofer, and he was walking down the street. He lives at the far end of Crown Heights, pretty much about 25 minutes away from here. He was walking down the street, and he saw this non-Jewish man who was actually on Shabbos, and he just all wanted to do was be nice, and he said, good morning, or something like that. And the guy ran into a rage, and he beat him up. He was trying to choke him. It was a miracle that he was alive. He had to be hospitalized. And later when they looked, of course, he was arrested. They caught him. He was arrested 40 times before this. Not 14, 40 times. And let out of jail probably because of compassion. So when do you stop the compassion? When you finally kill somebody? In fact, I think You can look this up. I don't know the numbers, but quite a few people that have been found guilty of murder have been arrested before, and they were released from jail for one reason or another, which means had they dealt with them in a more strict way, so many other people could have been alive today. So compassion is something that has to be done with common sense, and to do it in the right way. The second, yes.
Is this something like there's a trend, like somebody killed your family member, somebody you know, turns around, they forgive them, not in this religion but other religions. Is that something like that? They have compassion on them.
So I don't know. No one should ever be in such a situation. You hear these things. It depends on the situation. It depends if the person sincerely regrets what they did, if the person really is changing their lives. Because very often it's also possible by you forgiving and being compassionate, all you're doing is giving them the green light to go ahead and do the same thing again. So on the other hand, if somebody is truly doing tshuva and he truly wants to change his life, ready to do everything and anything in the world to change his life, and the fact that I'm not forgiving is sort of blocking him in his path, maybe in such a case, it would be a positive thing to do. Because it does say not forgiving someone is also being not compassionate. Because the person who feels guilty, if it's sincere and they feel guilty, they carry this burden, it's very painful. And one of the things that can ease their pain is your forgiveness. But again, we shouldn't abuse the forgiveness. It might be abused. That they're forgiving me, and then I have a license to do the same thing again to this person or to someone else. But if it's sincere, then the compassion is probably in place. Forgiving is in place. On page 9, we're going to go to the same subject, but a little bit different. On top of the page, it says, I mentioned it yesterday briefly, Tsar Balei Chaim. Tsar Balei Chaim means it's a prohibition that you're not allowed to cause pain to animals. There is a section in the Code of Jewish Law, and this is, of course, contrary to public opinion, that if you're a religious Jew, you don't care about animals, couldn't be anything further from the truth. There are actually certain mitzvahs in the Torah, certain commandments that are all about protecting animals and not causing pain to animals and so on. To give an example, number 1 and number 2 are two commandments that are related to animals. Number 1 is that if you see an animal, this is in Chumash, if you see an animal that has a burden on its back, and because of that the animal can't rise because it's too heavy, you have a mitzvah to stop whatever you're doing and help that animal be able to stand up. Or sometimes it's such a burden, you have to unload the animal because it's pain for the animal. This is not just a good deed or a nice act or moral and ethical. It's one of the 613 commandments. And the second one, number 2, is that you're not allowed to have an ox and another animal plowing together in a field. Why not? Because animals operate and work at a different pace. One is faster, one is slower. When you lock them in together and you have them doing the work together, one of them is going to be suffering. So it's a negative commandment, and if you do that, you've violated one of the 365 negative commandments. Another thing which I think is also very powerful, and that is that what if an animal charges at a human being and kills the human being? According to the Torah, under certain circumstances, the animal should be put to death. I mean, if a person kills another person, he's put to death according to Torah. When there was a Bezdin that put people to death, the same thing is with an animal. But how many rabbis do you need to be qualified to be able to judge this animal that needs to be put to death? The answer is a Bezdin of 23. So you have 23 sages sitting and making a decision whether this ox is going to be put to death or not. I don't think there's another country in the world or any society in the world that would make such a major decision when it comes to putting an animal to death, which clearly, from all these halachas, it's clear that the Torah is sensitive to the pain of animals and the life of animals. And whatever it says in the Torah that is permissible, like it's permissible to eat meat and you're allowed to slaughter an animal. So obviously there's more behind it, not because the Torah is insensitive, as you see clearly from these laws. And the story I told you yesterday with Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi, and it's interesting that in the secular world, one of the biggest sports, I don't know if it really exists much today, probably a little bit still around, one of the nice biggest sports, and this sport was for the elite, the upper class, the people who are the higher part of society, one of the sports that were just hunting. Not hunting for food, not hunting because you need the skin for clothing, just hunting for sports, for fun, entertainment. So this is something which is totally, completely prohibited according to Torah. It means you're causing pain to an animal, and that's giving you pleasure. And that's something which is unacceptable in Torah. So again, it's a part of the Shulchan Aruch, and even certain laws on Shabbos are allowed to be bent if it's going to help prevent pain to an animal. You have to know where it is and where it doesn't apply, where it does apply. But clearly, the Torah prohibits us to do anything that causes pain to an animal unless there's certain circumstances that call for it. Yeah.
When the animal hurts someone and they decide to kill the animal, do they kill it in a way that the animal won't go through any pain?
I'm not sure. I have to look it up. I'm sorry. I have to look it up. I was done. Yeah. So now
Rabbi, question.
we're ready to go to another Mishnah. Yeah.
So what you just said about how laws of Shabbos could be bent if it's like gonna help an animal. Once this person who like was Christian said to me once that like they would always kind of like explain why they don't keep Shabbos because of like the expression or some kind of thing where if one of the goats fell into a ditch and you couldn't leave him behind, like on Shabbos, you couldn't get your goat or something like that. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but have you ever, I don't know if that's like a thing that Christians say about why they don't keep Shabbos. I don't know, like if one member of your flock fell into a ditch, you can't get it on Shabbos. Like,
So they're very compassionate.
yeah,
The Christians. Yeah.
right.
Those are the people who killed millions of Jews throughout the
Right.
years. You know, by the way, when Nazi Germany was murdering Jews, 6 million, at the same time, they were giving out summons and penalties and arresting for causing pain to animals. So, you know, you have to know in what context it is. But again, there's probably nothing in the world that's more compassionate than the laws of Torah. And the Torah says that you're supposed to keep Shabbos. Obviously, that's for the benefit of the person, for the benefit of the world. And if an animal, when I meant to say bend the laws, actually one of the laws I was thinking about it is if an animal falls into a ditch, that you're allowed to do certain things to help the animal get out of the ditch.
Huh.
But there's a limit to what I could do, what I can do. Yeah.
So if they kill the animal and if they kill the animal in a kosher way, are they going to use their meat
No,
if it's a kosher
no,
animal?
they're not allowed to. An animal which is killed because of this reason, they're not allowed to benefit. Not a meat. You can't even have any benefit from the animal.
And I think you learn about this, but I'm not sure that if the animal kills the person by purpose, or there's something, no, or if this is the owner,
Well, of course, it's
or it's about the owner.
no. The owner has
Something
to
about
pay a certain amount
okay.
of money, but it looks like in the Chumash it looks as if the owner has to die for the animal, but that's not what it means.
Okay, thank you.
We're ready for a new Mishnah. No, we're still in Mishnah 10. So but we didn't do this part of Mishnah 10. So let's go back to the beginning of the booklet. And we're on Mishnah 10. In the last page of the booklet, we have numbers here, so it's 4A. 4A. So we've been doing the Mishnah piece by piece. Let's do another piece, not the whole thing. On top of the page, it should say number 216. So let's look at the line that begins with the word R, A-R-E. So that's 5 lines from the top. And in the beginning in the middle of the line, it says, they each said 3 things. Who's each? These are these 5 rabbis we just spoke about. They said 3 things, which means, of course, they said more than 3 things, but it means we're famous for this quote. What do they say? Number 1, your friend's honor should be as dear to you as your own. One thing. The second thing is a person do not be easily angered. A person should be in control of his anger and not allow anger to come easily. And the third thing is repent one day before your death. Being that nobody ever knows when that day, God forbid, would be. So therefore, every day a person should do tshuva. And that's why it's in the davening that every day we do that confession, which is called Oshamnu Bagadnu. That's the tshuva. So let's do these 3 things we just learned. One is about honoring a friend. The other one is about anger, and what these 2 things relate to character traits. So generally speaking, we're aware that there are certain people that we're obligated to honor and respect. First of all, in the 10 Commandments, we have one of the 10 Commandments is to honor and respect our parents. And we understand that if there are 613 commandments, and out of all the 600 commandments, Hashem chose only 10 to be the initial commandments, which the whole Torah is based on that, clearly this is the most important. And one of those mitzvahs, one of those commandments is to honor parents. So we know we have to honor parents. There's another commandment in the Torah that a person should honor Torah scholars. There's another commandment in the Torah that one should honor your elders. What does your elder mean? It means someone over the age of 60 or someone over the age of 70, different opinions. But you should honor an older person. You should honor the rabbi of your community. What about just my friend? Oh, a friend is just a friend. But that's what the Mishnah is telling us. No, that you have to honor and respect. Honor, by the way, doesn't mean that you're going to make something or do something out of this world. It just means to respect. That every human being has to have respect for any other person, even though this is my friend and we're friends and this is not my teacher. It's not an authority. It's not somebody who's superior to me. Just a friend. Nevertheless, there's a Torah obligation to have respect for that person. And the Mishnah says the respect should be the same kind of respect that you would want for yourself. So anything that you wouldn't want someone to do to you, you don't do that to the other person. And there are a lot of halachas sort of that branch out from this. So I want to go through some of them on page 10. I don't think we'll have time to finish all of them, but some of them. So first of all, number 1 on the list are the words in our Mishnah. The honor of your friend should be precious to you as your own. And then we'll look at the second one. Who is honored? He who honors others. This is also in Pirkei Avos, but not here. It's in a later chapter. But what it means is an interesting thing, because unfortunately, many people, especially those who have a position where they're superior to someone, whether it's at work, whether it's in an academic establishment, a school or college or whatever it may be. But when someone is superior, very often they feel that by being strong and being aggressive, being intimidating, they're going to be honored by all the people. Everyone will respect them. But the truth is they're not really respected. Technically, they act in a way that they respect them, but usually people like that are not respected. And who are the people that are respected? Those that respect everyone else. That's what the Mishnah is saying. If you want to earn respect, it's not by bossing people around or, God forbid, abusing people, screaming at people, not respecting people. The way to earn respect is by respecting others. That's what these words mean. Who is honored? He who honors others. I'm gonna skip something for a moment, then we'll go back to it. And that's number 5. What does respect mean? That you don't say something or do something that would be embarrassing to another person, insulting another person. So one of the things are number 5 and number 7. They're both dealing with the same issue. Number 5 says like this: embarrassing someone in public is compared to murder. Why murder? The simple reason is because when a person is embarrassed, the color on the face changes. They get red, white, because their blood is draining from their face. So in a sense, you cause their blood to drain. It is similar to the idea of murder. You're causing the blood to drain. But obviously, it's even deeper than that. And the reason why it's deeper is because it's not just, I caused the blood to drain. Imagine 2 ways that you can hurt a person. One is physical injury, and the other is by humiliating someone, which is worse. Physical injury, you can see the person's face is black and blue, the face is swollen, or there's some marks on the face. But if you humiliate someone, you embarrass them, especially if it's done in public, might not see nothing on the face. But internally, you hurt them so deeply that many times people can carry this with them for the rest of their life. People at the age of 50, 60 could still be dealing with something like that. It would be like a trauma they went through when they were young, where someone embarrassed them in public. It had such a deep negative effect on them that they have to still deal with getting over it many, many years later in their life. In Yiddish, there's an interesting expression. It goes like this. I'll give it to you in Yiddish first. A patch vergeht, a word besteht. Which means, a patch means a slap on the face. The marks on the face go away. But when you say something verbally that's painful, that's there to stay. In Yiddish, it rhymes. In other words, physical seems to be worse. Wow, you hurt the person, he's bleeding. But these are the kind of things in a day or two. I'm just talking about the physical part. In 2-3 days, it's over, you forget about it. Not you forget about it, but the physical damage is over. But when you say words that are insulting and embarrassing and humiliating, these are things that can last forever. Remember the story we just told the other day, how it was that the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. And that was the story with the person that was humiliated. He was at a party, and the owner of the party said to him, "What are you doing here?" And he said, "My mistake, your agent invited me." And he said, "I want you to leave." And he begged and he pleaded with him, "Don't embarrass me in public. Let me stay till the end of the party." And he grabbed him by his collar and he schlepped him out of the room. And he was so humiliated. This was the person that went to the emperor of Rome. And he said to him, "I want to inform you, the Jews are planning a revolution." And that's what led to the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash and a massacre of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of men, women, and children were killed. And why did he do this? Why was he so angry? Because he was humiliated in public. That doesn't justify it, but this is humiliation is something which runs very deep. There's another quote in another place in Pirkei Avos, and this is number 7. He who embarrasses someone in public has no share in the world to come. By the way, this is not a license that you're allowed to embarrass them, not in public. You're never allowed to hurt someone else's feeling. You're never allowed to insult someone, embarrass them. But when it's done in public, it's just much stronger. And here it says they lose their share in the world to come. Even though there are those that explain that if a person does this once or twice, it means a person who sort of does this on a regular basis. Like people have fun making fun of people, making jokes about people, embarrassing them in public. So not only is that a negative thing, it's a prohibition, but it's so severe that very few things does it say that they lose their share in the world to come. Even though in our society, it's pretty much common practice. People do it all the time. Then they'll say, it was only a joke. But for you, it was a joke. For the people out around you that were laughing, it was a good joke. The person who you made the joke about doesn't necessarily feel that way, even though they might act that way. But in reality, it's very deep and it hurts. Between these two, 5 and 7 is the number 6. Leinogu koved ze b'ze. They didn't honor one another. I don't know if anybody knows what that's referring to. It's a quote from Gemara. Right. There's a time period in the year between Pesach and Shavuos, 6 weeks, that it's a time of mourning. We don't make weddings that time. We don't buy new clothes. And the reason is because there was a huge number of Torah students that died all in the same time period. And these were students of Rabbi Akiva, the greatest teacher of Torah. And he had 24,000 students, and they all died. There was a plague. And the Gemara says, why did it happen to them? They were all rabbis and scholars and great people, students of the greatest rabbi of those times. And the Gemara says they did not have respect for one another. And it doesn't mean that they were fighting with each other, they weren't violent with each other. It just means they didn't have the proper respect that these people should have been having towards one another. And as a result of that, there was a plague. And from then until now, which is a period of almost 1,800 years, that time of the year, the entire Jewish nation has declared these 6 weeks as a time of mourning. So again, it reminds us to what extent we have to be careful with not embarrassing another person. You might remember, I hope you do, one of the things we learned in the first chapter of Pirkei Avos was that the highest level of tzedakah is when you give charity, but the recipient doesn't know who they're getting the money from. And what was the reason? Not to embarrass them. Now, there's something you learned in Chumash recently about this, and that's here on the page number 3. Anyone remember what this is connected to? One should throw himself in a furnace rather than embarrass his friend publicly. By the way, it doesn't mean don't go running into furnaces, but what is it referring to? Something in the parsha.
Which one?
Number 3. No, it was a parsha which we didn't have yet. I mean, sorry, Moshe Rabbeinu we didn't learn about yet. It's a parsha that we had in the past. It's in Bereshis somewhere. One of the parshas in Bereshis. I'll give you a hint. Clue? What? No. What do you mean when you say Avram? Maybe there was a story with Avram.
Oh, like that's the only person I
Throw
know
into the
who
furnace.
literally went into
Furnace,
fire,
yeah.
but it wasn't like embarrassed for him.
Okay, it's related to who?
Is it with when Sarah couldn't have a kid and they didn't want to embarrass each other, so like who's the older? So it's not then when the angel said differently to Abraham because the angel didn't want Abraham to know that Sarah said that he's the old, so he said to Abraham that she is the old.
They don't want to embarrass Sarah. Okay, that's a good example. But what does it mean throw himself in a furnace of fire? This is related to the story with Yehuda and Tamar. So she was asked, who is this child from? And he was the one who had the child with her. He didn't realize that this is the woman. And she could have been punished by fire. But I mean, again, halachically, there's no thing you have to, God forbid, lose your life on account of that. So that needs more explanation. But still, this is a story that she was ready to go through something so severe not to embarrass Yehuda in public. So at least for us, it means how a lesson of how far we should go out of our way, how we should bend over backwards, that nobody should be embarrassed and humiliated because of me.
I feel like that makes its way, like that idea makes its way in like common expression, like if you take the heat for someone, like you're taking heat on account of somebody else, like at work, let's say your coworker messed something up, but you're not gonna call out your coworker and your boss is yelling at you and you're not gonna say, well, it was his fault. Like you're gonna take the heat and just like, say, okay, I'll do better next time or whatever, we'll fix it. You're not gonna like embarrass your friend.
Right.
Whatever,
Oh, wait a second. We have another story of embarrassing in the finish. That reminded me something about a marriage to sisters. Rachel and Leah, that's exactly what she did. She took the heat,
right,
not to embarrass her sister.
right.
Yeah. It is a very beautiful thing to do, but we probably have to know how far to go with it. Yeah. Okay, we'll stop here. To be continued. Okay.
Did you do attendance or you want me to do it?
Oh, if you have another minute to do it, I appreciate it. I'll soon start doing it. I'll soon go back to my job.